liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Stacia.
Dale Householder,
Here.
Jason Glisby,
Here.
Carl Doty,
Here.
Gary Alk.
Here.
Okay, all present, we have a quorum. Any conflicts of interest that any of the aldermen note before we get into our agenda further? I'll move on to the consent calendar, which includes the approval of 10/13/2020 agenda, approval of 9/28/2020 meeting minutes, and approval of claims. Council, any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, Alderman Householder. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Auk. Any further discussion, council? Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Dale Householder,
Yes.
Jason Glisby,
Aye.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
Gary Alk.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Moving on to public comment. And we have quite a large room here. We have quite an extensive agenda. So I am going to be asking that anyone that's in attendance in the audience, please understand that not only is this being recorded, but if you have to have sidebar conversations, please use the vestibule outside for that. In addition, we are going to be taking public comment during this portion of the meeting as well as the prescribed times during the action items. I ask that you limit your public comment to 3 minutes per person, which we will be timing to ensure that we can move us along in a prudent manner. So at this point, is there any public comment that anyone would like to present for any item that's not listed on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Jim Peterson, resident of Hill City. With regards to the sidewalk project that was just completed, I'm assuming it's completed, the sidewalk. And what I'd like to request is that at the next meeting, Stacia, that maybe we could have an accounting for what the overall cost was and what the cost to the citizens of Hill City was.
So I'd like you to address myself and the council with that. I will take that down and we will see that it gets on the agenda.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Before I jump into action items, I'd like to welcome Sergeant Harkins to give us his Pennington County Sheriff's report, understanding that his time is precious and he's much more valuable on the street protecting us.
Appreciate that, thank you, Mayor. As far as the September report goes, we had a couple arrests in town. Those were both the result of assaults. That was pretty much it. We had a pretty good month, so as far as arrests go, we didn't have a lot of them, so that's a good thing. As most of you know, Deputy Southern has left us for a job in California. Why?
Neither do I.
Yeah, he can have that. He's gonna be missing out, but we had 4 really good candidates for his position. We finished those interviews today. We chose James Waldrop. He was the senior of the 4. He has 10 years experience in the office. He's a deputy training officer in Rapid City. And I think the biggest reason he wanted to be here, his quote was, "I wanted to be a part of a small community." So that was good to hear out of him. Does not live here in town though, he lives in Rapid City.
Okay.
So are there any questions regarding the report or the deputy we've chosen? And everybody will get to meet him eventually, whether it's through the paper or I bring him here to the meeting, I don't know. I see that we're bringing people here, so maybe I'll just bring him in.
There you go.
In person, so. But if you guys are good with it, he'll be the replacement.
Council, any questions or comments for Sergeant Harkins? No? All right, well again, we'd like to thank you for your service. We are very saddened that Deputy Southern has chosen to leave us. However, he did say that you never know when he'll be returned. He may just be returning as a civilian, so.
He liked the area, I know, but he had a really good opportunity, so.
Exactly, so thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have another caller that I see on the phone. The last person that called in, could you please identify yourself? We have 2 people on the line. Can you identify yourself that have not already spoken?
Joe Klein.
Joe Klein, okay. And we have one more. Okay. let the record note that we have a caller that has not identified themselves. If I do hear feedback, I will mute that line. Okay, let's getting on to action items now. Action item 7A, second reading, ordinance 2020-03. Ordinance amending Chapter 3, licenses and regulation of transient merchant. At our last meeting, which was the first reading of this, the council had asked Ms. Danny Shade to do some additional work. So at this point, I'd like to invite Ms. Shade up to address the council, to let us know the answers that you found relative to the council's questions, as well as provide a reading of the ordinance for us again as well.
Okay, the question in regards to timing, I went back through minutes of the meetings, and it was actually addressed several times. It was addressed on March 2nd, the agreement with the committee's recommendation of a 12-day period of time. The intent of reaffirming that back in March was to protect the brick and mortar businesses and to encourage building and renovation of existing commercial structures. They felt a longer time frame as a discouragement to that investment. The time frame topic was also discussed at the July 20th, 2020 meeting, and the commission still felt 12 days is sufficient. The Planning and Zoning Commission also, as directed by council, reviewed that 12-day period at the October 5th meeting, and the commissioners were presented with the surrounding communities' timeframes for regulating their transient merchants, and they again reaffirmed their recommendation of 12-day period. So they felt that the revision encourages transient merchants to set up inside existing vacant buildings because there would be no fee as far as transient merchant if they're inside a structure, a permanent structure. So, second reading. Ordinance 2020-03, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, licensing and regulation of transient merchants. Be it ordained by the Common Council for the City of Hill City, South Dakota, the following individual sections shall be added/amended to read as follows. Section 3.0903, licensing of transient merchants. A, definitions. For the purpose of this section, a transient merchant is any person, firm, or corporation, partnership or association, or agent thereof, transacting a business where goods and/or services are offered for sale at any place in the city that is located in a temporary structure. Temporary structure means a structure without any permanent foundation or footings. B, transient merchant's license required. No person shall engage in any business as a transient merchant without a transient merchant's license for each structure, stand, tent, car, vehicle, booth, or place used by such merchant. C, application. To obtain a license, a transient merchant shall file in the city finance office at least 15 days prior to the commencement of business an application stating his or her name and residence, the proposed start date of the business for which they are submitting the application, description and identification of the place and structure in which he or she proposes to do business, a description of the toilet facilities and their location, and a description of the goods or services he or she intends to handle. Applicant must provide with application proof that all applicable requirements of Hill City Municipal Code, South Dakota Department of Revenue, South Dakota Department of Health, South Dakota Electrical Code, and South Dakota Plumbing Code, if applicable, are being met. With such application, the transient merchant must also provide a certificate of liability insurance with the City of Hill City listed as an additional insured to said policy. D, fee and duration. Transient merchant's license fee shall be $750. This transient merchant's license shall be valid for a maximum of 12 days, beginning on the proposed start date set forth in the application for transient merchant's license and ending on the 12th day. The city finance officer shall note on the license the time period for which the license is effective and the location of the toilet facilities associated with said license. The transient merchant's license fee for less than a 12-day period shall be $150 per day, up to the maximum amount of $750. One temporary sign is defined in Chapter 10, Section 1002, definitions of the Hill City Municipal Code. Up to 16 square feet maximum is included with the approved application. E, toilet facilities. In the application for a transient merchant's license, the applicant must provide for the city's approval the type of toilet facilities to be offered, such as porta potties, or contracted with owners of permanent toilet facilities within 300 feet of proposed location of business. Written confirmation of permission to use toilet facilities will be required. Facilities must be available for both employees and customers. F, issuance. Upon submission and approval of the application for a transient merchant license, as well as payment of the required fee, the city finance officer or his or her designated official shall issue a license to the applicant to do business at the place described in the application and for the time in which the license fee has been paid in advance. The transient merchant license must be posted in each individual stand during operation. G, sanitation. Transient merchants shall keep the grounds their stands are located on clean, and the area must be returned to its original condition when vacating the location. Failure to keep the area clean can be cause for revocation of the transient merchant's license or a refusal to approve a new license in the future. Merchants are responsible for their own trash removal. H, location. Temporary structures used by transient merchants such as, but not limited to, vending, stands, tents, sheds, vehicles, booths, canopies, awnings, and fences may be erected on private property which is zoned commercial, provided that a transient merchant's license is obtained and the requisite fee is paid. However, no temporary structures shall be allowed in the locally designated central business district. 1. All temporary structures shall be dismantled and removed from the premises no later than 1 day after the end date set forth in the transient merchant license. 2. All temporary structures used by transient merchants must adhere to the current IBC code version adopted by Common Council. 3. All temporary structures must be outside of clear sight triangles at streets, alleys, and driveways. Sidewalks must have a minimum of 5-foot width of unobstructed space for the clear flow of pedestrian traffic. 4. No exterior storage of any kind will be permitted. I. Exemptions from section. This section shall not apply to the following types of sales and activities. 1. To sales where the proceeds are to be used exclusively for religious, charitable, nonprofit, or benevolent purposes. 2. For special community-wide promotions being sponsored and or approved by the City of Hill City or the Hill City Area Chamber of Commerce. 3. To sales to wholesale or retail merchants by sample for future delivery made by representatives or established wholesalers or manufacturers. The sale will be deemed to have been made for future delivery if the product or services are to be delivered at least 7 days subsequent to the date of the sale. 4. To sales of fruits, vegetables, or farm or garden products. 5. Lemonade stands or other similar activities operated by minors or children or youth groups. 6. Rummage sales, yard, garage, or estate sales. 7. In any district, a contractor's temporary structure and equipment sheds incidental to a valid building permit. J. Penalties for noncompliance. Failure to obtain a license as required by this chapter or any other violation of this chapter may be punishable by the maximum fine and jail as prescribed for Class 2 misdemeanors under South Dakota law for each offense. Each day of operation without such a license or without compliance with the terms of this chapter shall be deemed a separate offense. In addition to the penalty described above, the city may pursue other remedies, including but not limited to injunctive relief and revocation of the transient merchant license permit. I have one letter, Mayor, that I'd like to read.
Absolutely.
Individual could not be there, so I directed them to email me their comments. Dear Danny Shade, I hope this email finds you well. Per your request, I'm happy to provide you with my thoughts on the following issues facing the town of Hill City, South Dakota. As you know, I'm the proud owner of Mountain Souvenirs located on Main Street. I've just completed my second season in this wonderful town with the support of the amazing residents of Hill City. A few items that I wanted to discuss is the removal of a large tent during the summer. I believe it detracts a lot of business from people who have invested in the town and are located here all year. The people who rent space in the tents give it a look and feel of a flea market, and is not the look and feel that I believe the town should give off to its residents and tourists. Happy to provide additional feedback if necessary. All the best, Sammy Myro.
Okay.
Myro.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Shade. Council, I direct you to the packets that you've been provided and information which includes additional email messages that have been received relative to the subject. As is customary, I will be opening this up for public comment, which again, I will indicate that we will limit to 3 minutes per person, which we will be timing. Prior to that, would the council like to have any discussion relative to this as it is the second reading?
I have a question. Danny, the 12-day period, I see that you have a 1-day post that for tearing down. When can they set up? Do they have any grace period to set up, or is that included in the 12-day period?
No, it would be a day before.
They
would
so
have
have a
that
day
time
before and a
before.
day after, and 12
Correct.
days to sell?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Council, any other comments?
I would like to make a comment.
I have not opened it up to public comment yet, and at that point, when I do, we will take you as people want to comment. So it is with the council right now.
Okay.
Council? No. Seeing no additional comment, I'm going to open it up to comment for those that are present in person at the meeting today. After we have heard from everyone who wants to speak and give their feelings to the council, then I will open it up to anyone on the phone that would wish to speak. So that being said, if anyone would like to come and comment or provide their thoughts to the council, please come up to the podium, state your name, and address the council accordingly.
Randy Berger, Warriors Work, Ben West Gallery. 11 years ago, I brought a petition to the Hill City Council with 177 signatures collected in 3 days at our gallery from fellow business owners, rally visitors, citizens who were unhappy with the giant tent vendors and had taken over Hill City during the rally. Nothing was done. For the next 10 years, we watched tents and temporary structures go up and down on Main Street. They started setting up earlier, staying longer. One particular tent vendor purchased a parking lot and comes back each year, now for multiple weeks. Word on the street that the owner has a plan to build a building. It's been 10 years, no building. Do we want our town where we have empty lots and temporary vendors that come and go? Our current transient vendor ordinance has made it easy to come to Hill City, set up a temporary structure and cherry pick sales during our busiest time of the year. Some vendors don't even take their product with them when they leave. I have also heard that vendors skip town without paying their transient fees. We need people to invest in this town, not rent it out by the week. This ordinance is a step in the right direction. I've talked to visitors and fellow business owners who want to change and support the ordinance. Some of those people couldn't make it tonight. I have them right here. Can I read these?
Yes, you still have time.
Wally Matoush, Alpine Inn, Jim Burgess, Black Hills Harley Davidson, Robert Farrar, Black Hills Institute, Gail Crane, John Crane Watercolors, Blanche Farrar, Everything Prehistoric, Chris Van Ness, Black Hills Film Festival, Black Hills Museum of Natural History, Rick Van Ness, Black Hills Film Festival, Black Hills Museum Natural History, Michelle Olson, Bumpin' Buffalo, Judy Walker, Stage Stop, Pat Blasket. Sorry, I can do all these names. Heart of the Hills Antiques, everybody knows her. Joseph from Heart of the Hills Antiques. Corman Knoll from Twisted Pine Tasting Room. Michelle Ward, Art Forms. Joseph Reinhardt, Art Forms. Nancy Wright from Reinhardt, Arts Forms. Dulcie Sullivan, Alpine Inn. Dan McNamara. Tina and Travis Kether, This and That Bartique, Things That Rock, Sammy Mitro, Mountain Souvenirs, Lorena Freenas, Farmer's Daughter,
Okay,
Mackenzie.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your
Thank you.
3 minutes is up. I ask you, please, that stack that you have, if you could please circulate it with the council.
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Reading what he started.
Okay.
Randall Iverson, Black Hills Film Festival, Jan and Randy, Warriors Work, Rochelle Taylor, Jewel of the West, Lee Tackett, resident, Pete Stack, resident, Art Forms Gallery, Angela Ross, First Impressions Salon, Carolyn Stout, Just Dandy, Sarah Stout, Just Dandy, Lori Nanis, John Crane Gallery, J.K. Dooley Art, Mike Walou, resident, Anita Buckholtz, resident, Rebecca Schindler, employee Twisted Pine in 1880 train. John and Jan Humphrey, volunteers. Tom Frank, resident. So we've read off about 40 names, most of them business owners, some rent, some own. I'm not sure you realize how unique Hill City is, that there are so many people who own the buildings and run the businesses that are inside the buildings. Randy and I started here 25 years ago. We rented, we bought a property, we tore the building down, and we built something to last. And that has a huge impact on our commitment to this town and wanting it to succeed. So these 40-some names we read off represent millions of dollars of investment in Hill City, from our property and buildings to our annual sales. We're key to the economy of this town. We hire local people, we invest in Hill City year-round. Temporary vendors don't volunteer for or donate to local organizations or work together to plan community events year-round. We do. Is this a perfect ordinance? No. It's a compromise and the result of many hours of work among people who don't always agree. Trust their conversations and negotiations. Trust P&Z for all the work they did. Trust, and they passed it unanimously. Trust the attorney who approved it. Trust all these business owners who want to have a town that is a brick and mortar town that gives everybody that small town feel that our visitors so love to have. So please say yes. Pass the changes in the ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Emo. Would you mind sharing the rest of the names with the council? Thank you. Anyone else?
Jim Burgess, Hill City Harley Davidson. I represent the owners, which I am one of. I just want to say that we support this action. We think it's very good. We came to town about 18 years ago, started in a building, had tents. I rented from my friend here, and we decided that we liked it so much that we bought a building. And then we renovated that building, and then last year we spent another $350,000 on it. And we like being here, but we think that this should be a brick and mortar town. We have a historic district, and therefore we probably should keep the tents out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Yeah, Jim Peterson, resident of Hill City. You know, I get that you're working on the transient vendor deal, but this, there's some incorrect statements here. With regards to the vendor that's been there, and I happen to lease the building next to it for 10 years, I guess 9 years. Anyway, they've been there about 12, of which they've rented for 10 years. They didn't own the property, and they just recently bought the property 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years this fall. And so they've been contributing to this economy, renting, bringing back the same people, and that kind of effort to the economics of this community. And quite frankly, if you're gonna make some type of ordinance, you have just basically killed this guy's business. You've taken a property owner in town and wiped him out. And to say that he's been planning for 10 years is incorrect. He just acquired the property just about 2 years ago. And this is simply a taking of somebody's property rights. And if you're gonna do something like this to somebody like that, I think there should be a grandfathering phase-in period for them so that they can get to the point of where they wanted to get to, which is, yes, they have designs and looking at trying to build a building, but it doesn't happen overnight. And for him to buy a property, he can't be, you know, planning a building when he rents the property. You know, he has to own the property first to be able to do that. So to me, this is wrong in the sense that you're trashing and putting somebody out of business with this ordinance, and he should be grandfathered in for whatever period of time, 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is, so that he can get to the point if we want to get no tents in the city. And I think what you're doing is completely wrong.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to remind all the council members that maybe weren't there and knew this after, but we had a lady in the audience some time back, and she had a piece of property on the Central Business District and was having a tent, and they owned the property, and they shut her down. She had to build something. That was Patty Colvin. She built a bargain store. So I want you to remember that this is not the first time this has happened, and the council before had, said you have to build on that property now, and she had to do that. And I don't have the exact dates, but I thought it was around 1997 or 1999. She mentioned them, I think, when she came up in the last couple of years to just bring this out, that it's, really not fair to her. So, just so that you have a history of what's been done in the past.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Please come up.
Chris Van Ness. I worked on the committee to put this bill together, and just so that you know, we studied all the other areas in the Black Hills, all the other communities, and what we put together is nothing new. I mean, it's pretty standard and less onerous than some of the other communities. So I just want you to understand that, we're not trying to be unfair to anyone, that we studied every single city in the Black Hills and looked at what they did and felt that this was appropriate for Hill City to move forward.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience in person that would like to speak? Please come forward.
I'm Lori Nunnis with the Junkin Gallery, and I really wanted to thank you guys for working on this. This has been a long time in discussion, and it's the right way for our town to move forward in to think about what's best for both residents and for our business district. And it will even change the way I have to do business. I do have a tenant on my empty lot, and I'm willing to look at what's best for our town and not what's best for my pocketbook or what's easiest. It is really important for us to have a town that is going to be attractive to our clientele coming into the town. What are they looking for? If you go to smaller towns throughout the Midwest that are attracting tourists, they're doing these things. And so I would love to see that our town is moving towards that as well. So thank you for your hard work. I know how hard it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Stout, and I've lived on Main Street in the Central Business District since 1990, residents behind there. So I would just like to say that I support the ordinance. I think it's a good direction for Hill City, even though I was only this big when I moved there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, now I will look to those on the phone. If someone would like to speak, please state your name and you will have the floor.
Kay Bublitz.
Go ahead, Ms. Bublitz.
So to make things clear with the bathroom, anybody with a transient permit has to open the bathroom, even in a building, to the public, correct? So they can't, so they would have to, because a lot of places don't open up their bathroom to the public during the rally time.
So this is not a question and answer period. This is your opportunity to address the council with your thoughts.
Okay, well then I would like to have that looked into at the next meeting. So the next thing that I would like to discuss is when everybody was taking names down for to go against these tents in town, were they informed on how much taxes they would be losing by not having this tent located and the sales tax? Does everybody know that the city will be losing thousands of dollars due to the fact that they can't have a tent for a couple of months during the rally time? I mean, it's about $20,000 he pays within permits and sales tax to the city. And I'd also like to have that on the agenda for next meeting too. I'd like you guys to look into exactly like how much money would be lost due to the fact that this tent won't be there. If we could have that on the next meeting, I'd greatly appreciate it. The gentleman who owns that property, like said, he's only owned it for 2 years. And I think he should be grandfathered in to build. You can't just buy something super expensive and then build within a 2-year radius. It just can't be done. I think it's very unfair that what you're doing. And I think it needs to be looked into in order, you know, everybody needs to have the correct information. So before it's voted on, that's how I feel. You know, if any of you are business owners on, you know, that's sitting in the council might understand this. I mean, you're taking the gentleman's livelihood away. I mean, you're seriously cutting into his livelihood because the city doesn't want it. He owns that property. You need to give him time to build on that property. The tent that is set up is nice. It's neat. His employees are extremely nice. He feeds his employees every single meal while they're here. He's at the restaurants downtown. He supports the business.
Ms. Bublitz, you're out of time. You're out of time. Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else? Is there any?
1 second.
You're out of time. You're out of time. You are out of time. Everyone is allowed 3 minutes. Any other comments on the phone?
Yes. Cheryl Witham.
Ms. Witham, go ahead.
My comment as a resident is that, you know, we worked very hard to have this Hill City comprehensive plan, and I don't feel that the transient vendors fit into that. And I believe that we adopted that a couple years ago. So that doesn't fit the image that we've been striving for. And also, as a resident and as a volunteer, that, you know, I work hard to secure the reputation for Hill City. You know, clean community gardens, nonprofit. We pick up trash on Earth Day, and it's frustrating as a volunteer then to come in and have what I feel our reputation damaged with these transient vendors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else on the phone that would like to comment? Okay, hearing no one else. Any other public comment from those in the room? Seeing none, I am now going to close public comment. It will not be reopened for this topic. I'm now looking to the council. Council, you've had an opportunity to hear from the public. You've also had an opportunity to take a look at this and complete whatever research. Alderman Alk, anything that you would like to add?
Can't think of anything right now.
Alderman Doty, anything that you would like to discuss or add?
I know I've spoken with the 3 different business owners in town, and they're kind of in favor of it. And I kind of agree that we definitely should be looking at it. Hearing some of the comments tonight, though, as far as financials, would like to hear more as far as that goes. So I'd be in favor of trying to get more information as far as actual tax revenue and stuff like that.
Anything else, Alderman Doty?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Alderman Gillespie?
It's always fun when this stuff comes up last minute. Everybody just, we're talking about one block and one spot primarily that this impacts. And I've heard a couple statements from people that don't like it, and everyone else that's on the block is in favor of it. It's not the entire town at this point, and I know there's been a lot of work in it. I appreciate the work that people have put into it, and, I mean, it's been an ongoing issue for several years, I guess. And, yeah, I don't know, I guess
That's what you have.
I don't know what else to say about it.
Okay. All right. Alderman Householder.
Well, anytime a contentious issue comes before the council, it's a tough decision. I mean, and I have empathy for this guy that won't be able to, if we pass this, to continue, but that doesn't mean he can't go out to Vic's Corner and put his tent out there or something. We're not saying you can't do business. And nobody's saying the business that he's done has been detrimental to the town. It's just the perception that the residents seem to want in Hill City. I sat in all the meetings for the comprehensive plan. It was mentioned then. This gentleman had, if he was involved in our city, would have had to known when he bought this lot that this was coming up. This isn't something that just popped up in the last few days, few months. It's been, Randy, when did you start this, 19 when?
2009.
2009. It's been an ongoing issue since then. It's been up and down. It's nothing new. I guess my position is I represent the voters, and the voters overwhelmingly, all the emails I've gotten have been to pass this. So.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Householder. Okay. With that, if there's no other alderman discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Move to pass the ordinance on second reading.
Alderman Householder moves to approve second reading of ordinance 2020-03. Is there a second? Second, Alderman Doty. Any additional discussion? Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
Gary Alk,
Yes.
Dell Householder,
Yes.
Jason Gillespie.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Action item 7B, approval of special event application, Run for the Rangers, Granite Sports. I believe Brett, can you please walk us through that?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the Run for the Rangers, which normally takes place in March, April, and got postponed due to COVID related concerns. So they're looking at moving forward with the event on November 1st. The start of the race starts at 1 p.m. down at Granite Sports, and then they kind of do a little loop through town, primarily on the Nicholson Trail, and then on Back Street or Pine Street, and then end up back on Main Street there on Elm. So what they're looking to do is they're looking for approval for the special event permit. What they want to do is they want to close that section of Elm in between the alleyway and Main Street to facilitate the start and the finish of the race. That's where they're going to have all the racers gather. I do have a laundry list of different barricades and whatnot to help facilitate the race for our Public Works Director. And it's mainly just traffic at transition points where they're going, crossing a street and getting onto the trail. So again, November 1st is the date of the race, starting, the time of the start would be 1 p.m., but we would do that closure on Elm probably first thing in the morning, so we make sure we keep cars out of there. So recommend approval.
Okay. Any public comment, any discussion from the public? Seeing none, I'll close public comment on this topic. Alderman, any discussion? Alderman Doty?
I have nothing. I think it's a good event for the community, and I'm all in favor for everything they do.
Alderman Householder?
It's been a good, positive experience in the past with it, so.
Alderman Gillespie?
Nada.
Alderman Alk?
I agree with all yes.
Okay. No other additional discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Alderman Gillespie, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Alk. Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Gary Alk,
Yes.
Dell Householder,
Yes.
Jason Gillespie,
Aye.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Action item 7C, request for the remaining balance of $12,500 wine brew and barbecue reimbursement. We have people here to represent that, so I believe you can go ahead and address the council.
Hi, I'm here, I'm Emily Wheeler with the barbecue, and I'm here with Shane Alexander. He's part of the Masons group that organizes the event. We weren't aware that we were on the agenda for action items at the September 14th meeting, or we would have been here to address this, so we just really wanted to revisit that $12,500 that was set aside to help with our barbecue expenses. We do feel like our t-shirts were an advertising expense. They weren't sold, they were given away to our 46 teams and our 60 judges, and they're out at barbecues all over the United States. So we really felt like that was an advertising expense. That was $2,683.80. And then just on the 30th of September, we got a Southern Hills Publishing.
I think the Southern Hills Publishing was on that when all that was turned in 16 months ago. It was in that.
It was in the original request. We just received the bill.
They just got us the bill on that. We knew we were gonna be a little low with everything after we started adding everything up this year. These barbecuers, when they come to town, and judges, they get a gift bag. Every barbecue around in the US does it. Basically, what we did this year, these are the shirts. They got Hill City Wine Brew and Barbecue right on them. What they were given to those guys, and like she said, they went out to people in 15 states. And so they're running all over the US right now at barbecues. So Hill City's getting looked at pretty good as far as what we've done here. They really like this event, and we'd like it to keep going.
Okay. So what was deducted out of what was submitted, so the Southern Hills was not submitted with the bills. So I would expect that that can be submitted into the finance officer to be discussed when the council has an opportunity to review.
Okay.
The other items that were here that you have not yet addressed is the $1,704, which is for the sound system, Perfect Wave, Racks and Stacks, PA rental with sound engineer, and the $350 that's related to the damage to city property. Is there anything that you'd like to address the council on those items?
Those we know are kind of in the gray area. As far as the mic, it's been approved and paid before, so I've always turned it in. That's why I've always had that one on there. That's why that one's there.
Okay.
But I turned in more than what was there. We already knew that it was 12.5. We weren't looking for any more, as I stated to both the mayor and Brett in a special meeting, and also to Stacia when I turned them into it.
Okay.
I think the issue with the $350 fine for the damage, in that same meeting, it was left as, we will let you know, Shane, what needs to be done to correct that. And we heard no word until it was discussed, and we weren't, like I said, we weren't notified that it was even going to be discussed, so we weren't able to be here.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions of Emily and Shane? Carl, were you gonna speak?
Yeah, I just got a question, and being new to council, I just kind of know what I've gathered over the past couple months. But from what I've been understanding and hearing, isn't the Wine Brew and Barbecue, wasn't that planned to wind up being a self-sufficient event?
We've always been hoping to do that, but as you know, it's a free event. So when you put free event on there, it's hard to try to get everything to come out right. And just like last year when I turned in all of our everything to you, which would have been the council before, we were actually in the hole last year. So when you have a free event, you try to do everything you can and to try to make sure everybody is happy, and we give back to the community. This year we gave back roughly,
it was about $7,800.
just
Right.
to more or less go back to the kids in this community.
It went to the different volunteer groups and sponsorships and the dental program and,
Okay.
Yep.
so we are giving that back in donations.
Okay.
I forgot what else I was gonna have. Oh, to become self-sufficient, we would have to move out of Hill City and charge everyone a ticket. It would not be a free community event. So that would really be the decision and what we would need to discuss.
Okay.
I do think it's an important event, a fun event for the city. You see so many residents around.
Alderman, any other questions?
You said you ordered the T-shirts for the vendors and the judges. Is that right?
The people that compete, the competitors in the event, yes. Whether a lot of times, they're husband and wife teams, so they have the option of up to 2 shirts. And then the judges are, sometimes they're also husband and wife teams coming from all over 15 states to come here just to judge it.
And these are the shirts?
These are the shirts here.
Long sleeve shirts for the summer you guys ordered?
They're a long sleeve t-shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're very.
A lot of the guys wear them just because grease.
You don't want to get sun. You don't want to get sun too. Yeah.
And I'm, 20 feet away, I cannot read any of the writing on that shirt.
They're a little hard, but you order them and that's what we got.
Council, any other questions? So I'd actually like to ask you a question. You called it a free event. So I'm not understanding what that means. What does free event mean? Does that mean that these competitors aren't charged any kind of entry fee?
It's the public.
The competitors are, but we also.
Oh, okay.
The public is not charged.
So the competitors are charged an entry fee, and in return, you give them a bag that has the T-shirts and everything in there.
They also, yes.
Okay.
But it's more of a thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm. Very
and
similar
that's
to a
how-
car show. Yeah.
Yep.
Usually there's a fee, but you give them a goodie bag, something like that. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Before I go for any additional council comment, is there anybody in the audience that would like to come up? Please state your name and you can address the council.
Julie Klein. I just want to point out that the Masons do so much for this community. Not only do they give back in scholarships to our students and bikes and everything else, they also do that dental program. And that's what they raise money for at these types of functions, is to put back into the community and to our young. And I just like the council to consider that and remember. And also, you were told, if y'all were talking about the self-sufficient part. If I remember correctly, that was supposed to be a staggered, slowly coming down off of the original amount that they stated. If you look back in the minutes, I believe that's what you'll see.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I would just like to reiterate what Julie's saying. Julie, Jason, and myself were probably the only ones here that remember that the idea of self-sufficiency was to, over time, just reduce the amount that was given to them, so eventually they could get to self-sufficiency over 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay, thank you.
Vic Alexander. I just would ditto what Julie said and what Jim said. I think the resolution, if there's a question on some post being pulled out or something like that, whether that 350 is, somewhat irrelevant, but I think that in the bigger picture, their advertising thing and their program, and it is a big event in the community. I think it's a good event in the community. I think that, and the money was set aside, the money was budgeted. I think that it should be, used up the way that it was originally set aside.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Lorena Fries with the Farmer's Daughter. As far as being a merchant in Hill City is concerned, the Wine Brew and Barbecue is actually one of our best weekends of the entire summer. And so while they have expenses, they may be in the hole a little bit, but as merchants are concerned, we all benefit because of all of the people that they bring to town. And so I would just ask that you not write them so hard about being a self-sufficient thing. They do a lot. That one event brings a lot of people to our town.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
I would, please.
Please state your name. Go ahead.
My name's Kay Bublett, and I'm a little confused on what's going on here. Are we discussing the fee that Shane's being charged for the damage at this point? Hello?
The request is to reconsider some amounts that were submitted for bills. That is the discussion that's happening right now.
All right, so it has nothing to do with the damage at this point, correct?
That is potentially part of it, as the amount that was submitted is well over the amount that was budgeted. So again, this is not this is not a question and answer period. It's your opportunity to address the council relative to the request. Let me finish, please. It is your opportunity to address the council relative to the request that's on the table to reconsider those items that were not considered when the bills were originally submitted to council. That is what is on the table right now. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay, I'm done at this point.
Okay. All right, anybody else? I will go ahead and close public comment then. We will take no more on this topic. I will go ahead then and look to the alderman for discussion. I'm going to start with Alderman Gillespie.
I'm okay with the t-shirts. That was my question, is whether or not they were sold, the t-shirts and stuff. And I'm all right with those, and with the addition of the Southern Hills, I'm sure that would, I don't know how much that is, but.
It's 300. It would bring the total to, if those two were paid, it would be $11,752. So we'd still be under our 12.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for someone on the PA, but you didn't give me anything, because I was having a hard time with that one.
Okay. Alderman Ock.
No.
Alderman Doty.
I'm basically mirroring the same comment as Alderman Gillespie. I'm in agreement to the T-shirts and possibly the future bill. However, I still don't have a definite yes or no for the PA system, because there's really no explanation of what it was used for.
Okay. And Alderman Householder.
Well, you know, I kind of volunteered a little bit at this event. I was really impressed with the way it was run this year, the number of vendors you had, and the number of people it brought to town. It was wow. I think it's a well thought out and worthwhile project, and I would be in favor of restoring it to the 12.5.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved to restore the funds to the 12,500 originally approved and requested and approved.
So the motion on the table is to restore it to the 12,500 that was originally budgeted. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second, as long as it's used for advertising.
Second,
That's what it's for.
Alderman Gillespie. Okay. Any further discussion on this now? Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Dale Householder,
Yes.
Jason Gillespie,
Aye.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
Gary Elk.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Please make sure that you do submit that bill. Okay, so Stacia has a copy of it for records. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to action item 7D, approval of special event, Hill City Children's Boo Bash, Janet Vatovic-Beely. Here you are.
Thank you. This is just, this is our second time doing this little event in Pumpkin Festival. Being mindful of COVID restrictions and distancing and weather and everything going forward, we just had a nice little event for the children last year at the Visitor Information Center. It was really nice that Prevailer gave us a shout out, and in the Progress Edition said it was the best new event. Again, we've got lots of nice people who are stepping forward to assist. It's basically a trunk or treat with a mask contest, costumes, We'd like to someday expand it to include a pet parade and costume parade out there as well. But this year, we've got a backup plan in case there is a weather change. So it is simply to accommodate 100 kids and their parents for that event.
Okay.
So we thank you for your
Right.
gracious consideration.
Thank you. Any public comment on this one? I'll close public comment. Alderman Doty, any comments?
I got nothing other than to thank Janet for everything she's doing for the city and for the kids in the community.
Alderman Householder?
I'll ditto that. I think she's doing great. I think this will be a worthwhile event.
Alderman Ow?
Exactly the same.
Alderman Gillespie?
Nothing.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, waive the fee as requested.
Motion to approve, Alderman Gillespie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Alderman Doty. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Gary Elk,
Yes.
Dale Householder,
Yes.
Jason Gillespie,
Aye.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Action item 7E, approval of special event, Lane of Lights, City of Hill City. Brett, could you pull that section?
Yep.
Thank you for your kindness too, all of you. Thank you.
Okay. So, this is actually something that I have been personally working on, and it would require city support from a permitting perspective, and at this point, we're still in the very beginning processes of understanding what it completely is going to entail, so I may be coming back to the council at another point in time. So the piece of stretch that you're looking at right here should be frightfully familiar to everyone. That's Museum Drive. Hill City is rooted in history. We have a lot of history that's in our town, and unfortunately, a lot of our residents may not be as familiar as we could be with history, but this is actually the main street that came into Hill City historically. This is really an asset that the city possesses. A little bit later in our conversation, we're going to be talking about the bridge engineering report on this, so you can get a firsthand view of what the structure soundness and stability is on it at this point. There's nothing that I'm aware of in that report that would cause concern for the actual structure itself. The top of it is suspect. There's areas, and if any of you have driven over it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? However, this is a this is a stretch of road that is owned by the city that falls into that category of an asset that's really underutilized, okay? Because of the condition, because of where it's at, whatever the factors are that contribute to this, it is a roadway that has a lot of potential and a lot of possibilities. I believe everybody sitting here has experienced what we all have seen over this season is that what we thought might be very questionable has turned out to bring us a lot of traffic even now. I don't think anybody can make a left turn in Hill City yet. But moreover, there's a concern for people's safety and doing things and getting out and things like that. As we move into the shoulder season, it's a very difficult time historically for our merchants, and such that the council has actually set aside some funds that have gone to the chamber to allow for advertising to help those merchants that are here year-round. As we look at the shoulder season, one of our biggest events that we have is Christmas. I mean, let's face it, that's what the next big thing is, other than Halloween, which is pretty low-key. Christmas is really something special, and at one point in time, Hill City had been the place for Christmas. It had been the capital of Christmas in the hills, and I'm not sure what happened over time or how that all occurred. However, if you take a look at where we sit here in the heart of Hills, there's really no reason, and I'm going to give Janet credit for this, that we can't become the heart of Christmas. So if we take a look at what those things are, what's appealing to people, and also tie in that history part of it that looks at that stretch that was our main street, this, with a little bit of ingenuity, some money, and some time, could really become a huge Christmas asset for us if we turned it into something like the Lane of Lights. So if you could imagine starting over off of the highway and coming through there, being greeted by some folks on the weekends that would hand you some candy or a little bit of hot chocolate, and then driving the full length of that up and seeing nothing but Christmas lights, decorations, some of the holiday spirit, what a great asset that would be to our town. Not only would it be a draw, because I'm sure that there's no one that sits in this audience that as a child or even as an adult now doesn't say, hey, let's get in the car and let's drive around and look at Christmas decorations. I mean, it is what it is. It's that time of year. So the request that's on the table today for the council is to approve a permit for a special event to utilize this stretch as exactly that. It's the first year. It's not going to be perfect. It's probably not going to be where we could all envision it in the future. However, it's a start to get us in the right direction. People being with their families and their vehicles is COVID friendly. We could still maintain our heart of the hills, our heart of Christmas. This is the place to be. And just imagine our Christmas parade, instead of ending at Deerfield and everything breaking up, that Christmas parade doing that small jog that goes around our new Mangiamos, and then coming actually over the bridge for the full length of that and experiencing all of that. Eventually it would be nice if we could do the whole thing all the way on the other side, but it's a little bit of a tall order, as this is quite a large stretch when you start to take a look at the amount of real estate that we're there. So, as I said, the request on the table is for the council to consider allowing us to utilize that for what we're calling the Lane of Lights, to be an invitation for our residents as well as any folks that want to visit our town to experience a little bit of Christmas, which will take them through that and then kind of put them right out on Main Street, where they can enjoy additional businesses or food or whatever's there. In conjunction, I'm also going to be reaching out to citizens and businesses to encourage them to decorate as well, as that would be more for folks to see. But right now, today, the focus is on that strip. So before I turn it over to the council, is there anyone that would like to comment from the public?
I would like to actually give credit back to Mayor Kathy for this. She actually put into words what I have had a vision of, with light coming down Museum Drive toward Hill City to funnel people into town. But this would be a really unique opportunity for the chamber and our whole entire community to get behind. Smiles get evoked when we say Lane of Lights. I saw them today, so I wanted you to know that in particular. This is the kind of thing that other communities really can get behind, other chambers can get behind. I'm in. I'll work those weekends to be out in costume and greeting people. This is a perfect opportunity to really, as Kathy had said once in a meeting, I think to put Hill City on the map as really a Christmas community. Great opportunity for our vendors. And we have talked in the past about expanding the entire Christmas to include a community concert, gingerbread houses. We've talked about those kinds of things. An old world European market on Main. So this has the potential to really grow, but this is a really nice opportunity and a good place to start. So I just simply wanted to.
Thank you, Janet.
To lend my support.
Would
to
anybody
that,
else like
personally
to
and
comment?
professionally.
Okay, I'll go ahead then and close public comment. I'll go around the room. Let's start with Alderman Gillespie.
I'm gonna be the Grinch for Halloween,
Go ahead.
just so you know what Halloween is. I like the idea, to be relatively short. I really like the idea, but I don't know that I'm sold on spending taxpayer dollars on it to light it up. So I guess some of that's yet to be seen. But I think it's great. I have been in other cities that do all kinds of Christmas stuff and trolleys and lights and all kinds of stuff. And it's really a sight to behold, even if the elves don't have pointy ears.
Thank you. Alderman Doty.
I'm all in favor of it. I think it's going to be something different to help draw the crowd in for the wintertime. Spoke with the Cub Scouts, and I think I have them on board as far as trying to set up a Charlie Brown Christmas tree lot, so we might be able to get the Scouts selling Christmas trees again this year, which hasn't been done in a number of years. So everybody's kind of looking forward to that, who I've talked to. So I think it's going to be a good thing, and hopefully something that we can continue to grow with every year and progress in a forward movement with it.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Ock.
I think it would be very nice, but it's gonna take a long time.
It's a lot of work. Gotcha. Alderman Householder.
Well, I kind of agree with Jason that I don't think we should use taxpayer dollars to do this, but I think there are a lot of grants. I think you mentioned Black Hills Energy gives grants for something like this. I think the community, you know, I'll be glad to kick in $100 to start with myself. I'll buy 1 or 2 lights maybe in today's economy, but yeah, I think it's going to be you know, 5 years from now, wow, people are going to go, wow.
It'd be really nice to have both sides, but it's a lot of space. Okay. So, with that, is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve. Event, special event, Lana Lights, Hill City permit thing.
You gonna waive the fee, or are you gonna keep the fee?
I don't know, I was kinda thinking, I mean, I'm not quite sure who signed it, Brett, but,
I'm on the hook for the
I'd rather use that for lights. They're kind of
They
crazy.
waived the fee on the last one. What the-
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion Alderman Gillespie, second Alderman Householder, roll call vote, please.
Dale Householder,
Yes.
Jason Gillespie,
Aye.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
Gary Alk.
Yes.
All in favor, motion approved. Before I get to the next one, so a budget look is probably what you'll see this year. So if you go into Brett's office, there's about 1,000 coat hangers that what I'm calling them snowflakes in the raw. So I hope you'll be amazed at some things that can be done with this. So thank you very much, Alderman. Okay, action item 7F, approval of changes to signatory card, First Interstate Bank. Stacy, please.
Yes, now that we have our full council in place, I just want to get the old council off of the signatory card for First Interstate Bank. And as of this time, Kathy and I are on it already, and we are going to put just the president and the vice president on the cards due to the short until we go back to the election, since you guys will be here for another year. So I recommend approval, please.
Okay, so it really relates to 2 action items. Let's take them separate. So is there any public comment? I'm expecting none. Closing that. Any council discussion? I'm not going to go around on this one. Okay, so for action item F, the signatory card changes for First Interstate Bank, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Alderman Gillespie, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Householder. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Jason Gillespie,
Aye.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
Gary Alk,
Yes.
Dale Householder.
Yes.
Okay, skipping on to 7G, which is the signatory card changes for Black Hills Community Bank. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion Alderman Householder, second.
Second.
Second Alderman Auk. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Carl Doty,
Yes.
Gary Alk,
Yes.
Dale Householder,
Yes.
Jason Gillespie.
Aye.
All in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion items. Before I roll into the Chamber Director's report, I'm just going to make a slight change. I know that we have representation here from Bros Engineering on the biennial bridge inspection that I promised you just a few moments ago. Brett, would you go ahead and lead us through that, and you can invite the engineer up.
Yeah, so this is every 2 years we have to have our bridges inspected here in Hill City. So this is a regular event. Obviously, we've been working on the Major Lake Bridge replacement project, and that is in the works at the bid letting office. But the other bridge that's in town that does need work and hopefully a decision on whether we rehab it or we replace it or we abandon it. And this will spark some of that conversation because that bridge is deteriorating. I just received the hard copy of the report tonight, but Bros Engineering is here tonight to give us kind of the brief summary overview. And so I think Mr. Wessel.
Yeah, Doug Wessel with Bros Engineering. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to perform your bridge inspections. And with the council's permission, I'll like to pass around a summary sheet. Basically what that is just an executive summary, kind of what we observed on our bridge inspections. If you so choose, in that document we gave Brett, there are the full bridge inspection reports. They are about 20 pages long for each bridge. So starting out, I guess I'll just start out with the first bridge on the list. That's 52-242-403. That is the one on Museum Drive. This particular structure was built back in 1930. It is over the old railroad grade, which is now Mickelson Trail. You can see right away, it's currently posted at 23, 37, and 39 tons for the Type 3, 3S2 and 3-2. The recommended postings, we are recommending that it be reduced to 17 for a single unit and 30 for a combination vehicle. Basically a single unit, is just a straight axle truck, it's just a straight frame. Any combination, any kind of a hitch, that's a combination vehicle. One of the reasons why, probably the major reason, is the condition of the concrete deck. If you look underneath there, there is significant map cracking and effervescence that is progressing, basically what we're seeing on a 2-year cycle. Another thing, that there has been a bituminous overlay placed on that structure. Basically, once those are put in, it was very common to do it back in the 80s and 90s. And one of the reasons why it was done is because when they were putting a new bituminous overlay, overmat on the roadway, it was easier for them just to keep going over the bridge instead of tapering it. Well, what they found out then is that actually the bituminous on there traps moisture underneath there, and then it degrades the deck. So whatever kind of degradation there was before the bituminous overlay got on there, it's now being accelerated. There's kind of a term, once you put that on there, you've given that bridge the kiss of death, is really what's happening. Another thing, you guys are having settlement off the ends. I did drive by the other night, saw that the concrete valley gutters are getting replaced. I saw they were removed. One of the reasons why you're getting so much settlement there, if you look at your back walls, which that's on the ends of the bridges, there's actually gaps in there. They actually built it on a column system with a beam over the top of it. There's nothing stopping the material from going down underneath there. Now, I'm guessing none of you here were here 90 years ago when they picked that style of bridge, but that's what's happening. And that's why you're having continued settlement back there. One of the fixes would be is to dig that down and to put a back wall to stop in there. But what I can tell you, I guess, that'd be the way how you fix that. Now, on the steel beams or stringers that you're seeing that supports the concrete deck, you are starting to see quite a bit of rust. The paint on there is failing. You're starting to get pack rust. Which once again, once you start getting to that point, there's really no rehab to do that. It's very expensive to do that. Same thing on the bents, which is the center supports. There's 2 of them, one on each side of Mickelson Trail. You're starting to see a lot of deterioration on that too. Now, underneath at the abutments, the beams set on what we call bearing pads. We are losing. We have lost a lot of the concrete bearing pad thickness, about 50 to 60% of them. So we are seeing a lot of that, and that happens by the water draining down, getting in there, and then just creating that ground. So, long story short, this structure has probably seen its better days. Rehab is probably not really feasible to do that now. So one of the things you can look at is replacement. Now, like you said, we're still at a pretty decent load rating, 17 tons and 30 tons, which is still pretty decent. But once you see this, it starts degrading exponentially. Once it starts going really fast. So in another 2 years, we'll see where we're at. But I'm guessing it's not going to get any better. So One of the things, and I was talking to Brad earlier, is on your Major Lake one, that was on the old system. It was called the STIP program, where you got the money from the DOT. Since you guys got that, and you guys are one of the last ones to get in, they have changed to what they call a Big Improvement Grant Program, the BIG program. Okay, and that is more, you submit an application, there's a scoring system, and then they have $9 million, and they start at the top, work their way down until they run out of money, and they draw the line, and that's where the cutoff line is. They do that every year. Okay, I just looked at what your guys' big score would be. You guys would score 53 points. Okay, now in comparison, last year the lowest bridge that got a structure was 48 points. So last year, if you guys had submitted on that, you would have gotten approved for a big grant. Now that's on an 80-20 split, where 80% is paid by the state, 20% is paid by the city. Now, having said that, you don't know for sure where that cutoff line is going to be every year, because it all depends on who submits, how big the structures, how high they are. I mean, but all you can do is look at back at past, and that's so I can tell you you're at least in the running if that's something you would so choose to do. Now, one thing, since this is not over a waterway, it's considered a non-hydraulic structure. And I actually called out to Pier today and asked them, I said, well, how would we do this? Because typically we do hydraulic analysis, make sure our structure is the right size to pass a certain flow, 25-year, 10-year, whatever the structure would be. And they go, well, they said, that's a good question. So, but what I was thinking is we basically would have to give them a preliminary layout, just do a TS&L, type, size, and location. Basically, we would have a meeting with the state, meeting with the city, and say, okay, this is what we want to put in there. This is the length of structure. This is the width of structure. This is the type of structure. You know, and most likely for that structure to be a pre-stressed girder structure. And then go from there. Now, the applications for those are due January 2nd every year. Okay, so this next year is January 2nd of 2021. You know, basically we've kind of missed this window. So the next opportunity that you guys would have would be January 2nd of 2022. So basically, what, 14 months or 15 months from now. Now, if that's something you want to do, you know, and you can talk to Brett, you know, we can sure give you a proposal to do what we call the preliminary engineering part of it. So then you are all set and ready to go on that January 2022 date. Okay. Now, you know, of course, this is over Mickelson Trail. We just recently are designing a structure down in Fall River County over Mickelson Trail. You get to deal with South Dakota Game Fish and Parks.
We have an expert there.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. So, but anyway, that's kind of where you're at on that structure, on Museum Drive. You know, I guess, does anybody have any questions on that structure?
I'm curious, I guess, and I wouldn't hold you to this, but what do you think the odds are of getting a big grant for that structure, given that it's a road that is not used, it's not necessary?
It doesn't matter. All that matters is the score.
Okay.
And the only criteria is that it has to serve more than one resident. That's the only criteria that the DOT has.
Doesn't matter what. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It doesn't serve a resident.
Well,
wouldn't have to.
No, but it's not dead end. It's not dead end on either end.
Yep.
So.
It's a secondary exit from all those houses that go up there. And if you have any potential building like a museum or anything else there, it would serve a purpose. Right now, we're not using it because it's horrible. But we can talk about that more as a discussion item or action item at an upcoming meeting. I would actually suggest that we do that at the next meeting.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's just something to consider.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
any other questions on that particular?
Well, let's let him finish.
Just asked if there's questions.
This meeting is the council meeting, and we typically don't recognize public. I'd invite you to look at a Rapid City Council meeting and see how they're handled, or even one of our meetings. Council, at this point, I'm gonna allow Mr. Alexander to ask his questions since it's relevant to a structure that we have here, but in the future, please understand that that's the intent of these meetings.
Well, I'm just looking at, to build a structure on there, we all know it's gonna cost a lot.
Yes.
To put some kind of an arch culvert in there will serve the same purpose and be able to provide, you just got fill material, we got fill everywhere. Probably, just throwing it out there.
Well,
What
you
an arch
know-
culvert is, you hadn't mentioned one, I thought I'd mention it, thank you, Mayor.
Mhm. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and if you want to do that, that'd have to be approved by Game Fish and Parks, because
Gotcha.
that's their
Exactly.
trail.
Exactly.
You know,
No, it actually is
Exactly.
a Forest Service trail, but Game Fish and Parks administers it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep,
moving
yep.
on to your next one, you've kind of already, Brett kind of covered a little bit, the one down on Major Lake Road. You're right, he's correct. The plans have been completely done and stamped. They're sitting in the South Dakota DOT bid letting office. All they have to do is schedule a bid letting date. And when I called them up and talked to that individual in the bid letting office, and the date has not been scheduled yet. So,
just for clarification purposes and my clarification when we talked about Game Fish and Parks, it's my impression that it sometimes is difficult to run through some of these organizations and it takes a little bit longer than if you were able to do it independently. Is that an accurate assessment?
that's probably an accurate assessment, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Being politically correct.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm just trying to bring to light the fact that it's not as easy as just go do a bridge.
No.
Okay.
No. I can tell you too, that Major Lake structure, we did see also continued degradation on there. And that is another one. Right now, it is posted at 23, 20, and 37 tons. And because of the back walls, again, they just really got to be horrible in this last 2 years. We're recommending 12 and 20.
Okay.
And that's just kind of what we talked about. Once they start going, they start degrading exponentially.
Okay.
So I guess,
Any questions from the council?
What about the bridge over Bishop Mountain Road, over Spring Creek?
Those aren't classified as bridges.
they must be less than 20 feet?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, those are completely
You're
on our plate as far as the review and replacement and rehab.
Now, I can tell you, for other counties, we do some inspections for less than 20 feet just for their stuff, and we'd be happy to, if you want to consider that, we'd be happy to give you a price to do that.
At this point, the council is going through an exercise to understand what we have as a city and start
Okay.
prioritizing what we need to do. So as we talk about that, things like this are going to come into play, so
Sure.
you'll probably be hearing from us.
Okay?
Okay,
Well, like I
Anything
said,
else?
if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to come down anytime you
Okay.
guys would like to talk to me about anything.
okay.
So, I guess that's all I got. Well, again, I appreciate you guys' opportunity for us to provide our services to you, and we hope to continue to do so.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Chamber Director's Report. Okay,
Oh, great. I'll hook your jacket on the chair. I was just doing a little bit of research too for community challenge grants and things online. I'll collaborate with you on trying to find some resources, funding for the lights.
excellent,
walkway
thank you.
lights.
Thank you.
You bet, happy to.
Willing to learn the grant process.
Thanks for the opportunity and privilege of being here. I have an awesome board that we work with today, and everybody's re-upped for continuing on in this unusual year when their terms have expired and they're all hanging together in a collegial group. They're just awesome. I also want to give a shout out to Carl for coming in and visiting with me last week. That was really a nice opportunity. Privileged to be here before you. I'll just give you kind of a high-level little summary. You can read faster than I can talk. But right now for September, we continue to serve our members, visitors, and community. We're supporting our events with media or other requests. We're preparing for various events. We've run really lean this year. We're under budget on our staffing because of health concerns and safety concerns. So that's all good. We've got a dedicated staff and we continue to run that way through October. Membership renewals are about 78% right now. We've got 12 new members. We're wrapping up our membership campaign because it's important to get everybody included in that Southern Hills Vacation Guide as we plan for next year. Grateful to have a successful homecoming parade. What an awesome opportunity that was for everybody to participate. If I actually counted out all the participants, the number of entries that we had in floats actually rivaled about the same as Christmas. If you took all of them, the only thing we didn't have were all the fire trucks, which would have taken them over the top, and we're so grateful to have those that we did. And Jason Alexander brought the Stoughton 27 Stoughton, which was awesome. So everybody really got behind that. Meetings and conferences and webinars and other. Buffalo Roundup. Always a good opportunity to promote Hill City and get good feedback about the community. We actually took our tote bags there. We sold 46 of them. We actually took our clicker and we clicked about 200 to 250 people that we talked with on those days that we were there. So that was great. And everybody said, yep, going to Hill, we're either staying in Hill City, we're going to Hill City, we're going to the Alpine, we're gonna ride the train, we're staying in a cabin outside of Hill City. So it's all about Hill City when they see us, and we get prime location because we have great relationships with Custer State Park, our friends there. Sturgis Mustang Rally, thanks to Victor, we had a presence there to welcome the Mustang Rally participants. 161 tote bags we gave away. We gave away 169 $10 chamber bucks. Of those, we've gotten about half of them back. 80 of them that came back. Just figure that's $800 that went into the Hill City community and more. Because the guy that is the coordinator for the event came up to me and afterwards said, you heard a lot of guys saying, yeah, that $10 chamber bucks really cost me a lot more. So by the time they did their shopping, so that's all good. We continue to prepare for our print media for the next year. Black Hills Badlands and Off-Road 2-year guide. People want to be outside this year, an anomaly, but that's an opportunity for us to continue to promote our outdoor experience as we recover in the year ahead. For the VIC numbers, interesting, I looked at the numbers. We were open 2 weeks in May, so we were actually at 38% of our visitor foot traffic for just those 2 weeks. In May, we've risen to 81% of our foot traffic this year in September against what we had done last year. So we've, as Kathy mentioned earlier, and you've all witnessed and seen, there are still a lot of traffic here. We continue, and we always say this every single meeting, good weather brings people to town. So as long as we have great weather, we're gonna continue to have strong numbers. VIC foot traffic, top states, we track June through September. South Dakota, Minnesota, Colorado, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Wyoming, California, Michigan, and North Dakota. Those were the top ones but we track it for all of our states. The only one that I didn't see come through was from Rhode Island. South Dakota, we're trying to target and figure out where our traffic's coming from in South Dakota, intra-state, so that we can market to them. So we know, and we get a lot of people from Hill City and Custer just who want to go to the CCC Museum, but Rapid City and Sioux Falls. So that tells the story. And I'm going to be working with the Northern Hills Chambers to promote our event. So I'm really excited about that, to promote their events. We'll do a reciprocal thing. So it's all about relationships. In our Google Analytics, again, fun to see those numbers. If you look at September last year, the users, and against what we had this year, we went from almost 4,000 last year to almost 12,000 this year. So that's great. So that means our targeting and our search words are all working. And also look at our page views down there. People looked for various things and they landed on various pages on our website. 9,500. This year it was 31 in the month of September. So that's good. We know, and we also know that our efforts, our marketing efforts, people are engaging with them, and it's the right audience that is engaging with them. Keywords. I thought this was interesting last night when I was looking at the analytics. Cabins, Hill City, cabins near CSP or Mount Rushmore, cabins in Hill City. Those are the search words that people are looking for when they spend time on our website. The location, this was also of interest today because we were talking about this in our meeting. Where are people coming from? And actually when I drilled down, they're coming, the ones that came up were Omaha, Chicago, South Carolina, because that must be a research group that's targeted and clustered as an aggregate. Denver, Minneapolis, Rapid City, and Sioux Falls, and Lincoln. So that's where people are coming from. Then what are they looking for? That last column, September. They're looking for cabins, what to do, sites and attractions, eating and drinking, stay, shop, do events, and stay hotels. So right now, we're in planning mode for the fourth quarter and going into 2021, and making sure that our staff continues to be safe while serving our guests. And another thing too that I learned from a webinar I thought was interesting to shared with our board today. Right now, our lodging partners can probably bear this out, and we've seen it. Expect an increase in spontaneous bookings, so that people are planning very, very little, they're just picking up and going. Shoppers are searching for more sites and longer for hotels and air travel. And again, the thing that we've seen this year is the increase in our drive-to vacations. People are coming from that short haul, 10-hour distance. I had eight friends from Omaha who came this past weekend, and they rode the train. It was awesome. But the people that are coming are within that 600-mile radius, that short haul distance. And right now, travel recovery is right around 50%, according to the Adara Travel Marketing company, and that's the one that works with South Dakota Tourism, one of many. So that's kind of the long and the short of it.
Okay. Council.
Any questions, or anything I might be able to answer or help you with? All right.
Janet, again, I'd like to thank you for all the work that you and your board does. Unfortunately, I missed the board meeting today.
No worries.
I had intended on going to it, but I will be at a future.
That's
and again,
great.
I appreciate your focus on the driving distances and all the marketing that you're doing for the closer areas. I think that's going to be key to our fourth and first quarter.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Public Works Director's Report. We've got him here in the flesh today.
Travis Kettner, Public Works. Not a whole lot for September, I guess, but got a new school zone speed sign put up on the southbound lane on Main Street. I'm working on trying to get it programmed so it flashes like it's supposed to. Keeping up on some gravel road repairs. I know it's not going on September, but I know that up on Upper Bishop Mountain, there's gonna be a culvert getting installed underneath the road up there.
Yeah.
Just so everybody's aware, we've talked to them and gone through the permit stuff for it and everything, so there's a plan for all that. So that will be coming up in the next couple weeks, I think. Everybody can see that J&J Asphalt's running around town like crazy, fixing everybody's stuff and adding pavement. I talked to him today. He's hoping they were gone tonight, if not tomorrow. He said if they don't leave, they're never gonna get to leave. Because people keep stopping them and asking them to do stuff.
Hey, can you fix my head? Can you fix?
So they are trying to get out of here. So if you wanted something done, it's too late.
You can still pay for it though, get it on this year and they'll
Travis?
let you hold the check.
Yep, yep. He did say that. New trash cans have been set out. For the most part, we do have a few extra around if anybody knows a spot that needs one. However, with the winter season coming up, they will be pulled back a little bit so we don't wreck them through the snow. Nothing going on with the cemetery. Water, we had a leak up on Smoky Drive at the pump house. They got fixed. It was near the hydrant. There's a curb stop that controls Memorial Park. That's all taken care of. 668 Bishop Mountain, we had a leak there at the main and well, I shouldn't say the main, the service tap at the main and the curb stop, which has been fixed as well. Water shut-offs are starting pretty rapidly through town. People are closing up for the season. Water bill for August would be 4,798,566 gallons. Pumped was 6,938,000 gallons. Difference of 2,140 gallons. Sewer for August was 3,805,770 gallons. Government buildings, not much there. Had to work on a lock on the Boy Scout building. City insurance inspector. I'm not sure if that's the official title, but that's what I called him. Came through looking at all the city buildings and everything. There was no major issues with anything, at all. He didn't bring up anything, I haven't seen his official report yet, but nothing that we talked about that day was of concern. Everybody can see Bull Run is being worked on, all the asphalt's finally done, curbs are in, all the infrastructure has been installed, tested, inspected, and passed. We are working on probably this week yet, getting the water main filled and everything as it should be up there. A lot of houses going on up there and in Sunset Creek, so the water and sewer service lines are being inspected as they go in. All that's looking good and the way it should be. That's all I have. If there's any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, the door in the Boy Scout building, you can push it and it'll open.
It still is on the alley there? That's the first I heard about that. All right, we will look at that tomorrow. That needs to be corrected.
Anything else? All right, thanks, Travis.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good work. Okay. Discussion 8D, code of conduct. So this is an item that was on our agenda that we decided to place down on as a discussion item, and I'm just gonna look to Jason, since you have been a champion of this, to get it on our agenda.
Yeah, it's in there. I guess everybody just needs to take a look at it. Over the, I don't know, it's just been discussed before. Some cities have them, some cities don't. Some cities repealed theirs, their statutes. This one is, it certainly isn't perfect, nothing probably is, but it is pretty comprehensive, possibly to a fault. But it's there, and I just think it's good to have something in place, and I guess in the future they can repeal it or whatever they want, but having something in place certainly would not hurt things. That helps us as council peoples to, I don't know, toe the line a little bit and maintain our composure, demeanor, work through whatever we come up with in a way to deal with that. So, I don't know, there's not much to it. It's there. It's a conglomeration of various minds and other policies and such like, so.
So, gentlemen, no, Brett's got one thing to add.
Yeah, if I can just add on to the tail end of it. So, you know, this document has been around for probably about a year and a half, 2 years now at least.
Probably at least.
And it lays out kind of the process of, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, that kind of deal of, okay, we've got a complaint, here's what's occurred, what are the next steps? And so it kind of walks you through that process. And I agree with Alderman Gillespie that, you know, an ordinance is never going to be perfect, but it's nice to have guidelines to help you down the path of what is probably good things to look at and consider. This covers quite a bit of everything. I think where this document may be lacking, and it's kind of a nebulous discussion, so it's kind of nebulous, it's hard to put your finger on. The last part of this process of saying, okay, what's the remedy? If you've got a code of conduct violation, you go through the steps, you've determined that something did occur that wasn't appropriate. That last step, you know, whether it's step 5 or 6 or 7, there's not clarity in the sense of exactly what's going to happen. It doesn't draw that picture for you. And I don't know how much it can draw that picture for you, just because every incident that could occur is going to be different, and you've got to view it differently. So I think for me, just to point out that, because a lot of you are new on the council, that last part of this solution is that last part of exactly what's the remedy. Is it a verbal admonishment from the council, you know, from the other members? Is it a document of some sort? Is it up to, you know, excusing somebody from the common council? That's for you as a group to figure out. And so you've got to leave it open for you to have those discussions and have those votes and whatnot, so it's somewhat nebulous on purpose. So when you go through the document, I think your next steps right now is your comfort level with the language, your comfort level with what it covers, and the comfort level of what path it leads you down. There was a question that was asked, I think it was last week or the week before, has the city attorney looked at this document? So I think our previous attorney, Frank Bettman, had looked at it. Our current attorney has not looked at it, but I think the item is that we want to make sure that there's traction and a comfort level of where this document needs to go today. And we can draft it so that it accomplishes those goals, and that the attorney would be kind of the last stop of saying, here's what the intent is. We've drafted it, now we'll take it to the attorney to polish it up, make sure that it passes their muster, and then come back and vote on it. So the short answer is no, it hasn't been looked at the city attorney yet, but I think there's some dialogue that needs to occur here with this body before it goes there, so.
Well, maybe it's a bit too cumbersome, maybe it needs to be dummied down a little bit or something. 'Cause a lot of it is established in state law already, but I still think it's a good idea to have something and, reference that. We know where to go back to, what laws to look up, and well, most of them are in here already, I think. And I mentioned once that, I'm not married to it, it's a work in progress, and I think it'd be a good step for us to have. But there's certainly a lot of minds that we can put together and bring it in and dial something in.
Reading through it, at Christmas, a council with 4 members, I mean, I could see a large city that has 12-member councils or something like this, but I did hand out a couple that I have researched in other cities that are very simple, something just to read and look at. B, due process. It just felt like all of a sudden anybody that got mad at a council member could write up a complaint, and going through the 3-4 steps you're taking, this is going to be drug out over a month's time. It's not a quick resolution. I just really didn't like step number B, for sure. The first part I thought was good, but when you got to that due process point, wow.
So it's pretty extensive, you think?
Well, I think for a council this size, it's very extensive.
Okay.
And I can see some need. I'm not disagreeing that we don't need something.
Okay.
I don't know that we need something this in-depth for this size of council, I guess. is what I'm
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, so as we continue to have this first and foremost of mind, and it doesn't become a document that's been sitting around for a year and a half and nothing happens with it, I'd ask that you each take a look at it and get back to me with some of your feedback and thoughts on that. Let's give ourselves a little bit of time to do this, and we won't put this back as a discussion item on the next meeting, but perhaps look to the first meeting in November to do that so we can revisit this. Let us know your thoughts. If it's something that we might need to reach out to seek additional advice on it, we can. And then we'll take it from there. But again, I don't want this to be something that just kind of sits and we never work through. So take the next couple of weeks to take a look at it. Just get me your feedback. Brett, myself, just copy both of us. And then we'll be able to do a little bit of massaging to see if we can get this to a point where the council feels comfortable in adopting it.
Maybe the addition of frivolous complaints can be added. Well, one could argue there is no such thing, but there is.
There is, yep.
And that may help some of it too.
Yes. Okay.
Like I've said, I'm not married to it, and
Yeah.
it needs to be a work that we can all be
comfortable
with. That's gonna give us the same options, avenues, and everything with.
Okay.
That is more my goal than pushing through a document.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. So I think we have a plan on how we can follow up on this and do some reading and then we can take it through that, and then it'll be as another discussion item in a future meeting several weeks away. So I'll move on to action item 8E, liaison council roles. I put this on the agenda as I wanted to just start to open the conversation with this council now that we have a full council that's been established. Historically, and I have not done all the extensive research that I need to do, so I can't tell you when it started, whose idea it was, how it went through to be approved to be paid activities from the council. But historically, when I first came on to council, and I'm sure it existed many years prior, there were groups that were identified, and there were council liaisons that were assigned to those groups, okay? And those liaisons would be responsible for interacting with those groups and then bringing the results back to the council. I can tell you that there are two specific groups that by ordinance require council liaisons and partnership, and that would be planning and zoning and the library board, okay? And also, I need to read the wording on Parks Board, but if we reinvigorate a Parks Board, that may be one of them. So there's a handful that by statute require us to do that. However, there's all these others that the ambulance board and the chamber, and there's a lot of other organizations that have been added to that list. I put on the table a while ago that, you know, why are these things that we have assigned to people and the council goes, they receive payment for their activity there at the meeting, and although it's a minimal amount, why are we doing that? If these are groups or organizations that we work with directly that receive funding from council, I think it's reasonable for us to have an expectation that we interact with them much like we do at the chamber. Janet's here once a month to do that. So we've been working to try to set up that type of interaction in all those groups that do come to us and that we do in some way interact with from a funding perspective, get on the schedule. We unfortunately had the COVID situation, I even hate to say the word anymore, but the COVID situation, so that delayed our plans a little bit, but that's still on track for us to bring those groups here to interact. The other part of it that I'm taking on this is as representatives of your constituents and those folks that have voted us into positions. It's really our responsibility as a council to be plugged into what's happening and going to these things. So you don't have to be a liaison in order to go to a meeting to understand what's happening. And I would encourage that. So one of the things that I wanted to put on the table and I'd like you guys to consider and give me individual feedback on is, do you feel that there's a need to continue this formalized liaison role? I believe we had historically budgeted like $3,000 or $4,000 toward that. And again, there's a few that we do have to provide that type of service and identify individuals for, but those others I think really are part of the role that we do. And you know, it's reasonable to expect that not everybody can, you know, be at every, there's ways that we can handle it as a team instead of actually putting it on the books like that. So I wanted to relay that message to everybody tonight and have you guys consider that. It would be my recommendation that we move to a situation where we interact regularly in a formal setting, like a council meeting with those folks that we do participate and fund. And that moving forward, if there is a specific interest that someone has attending those meetings, but again, still being open and available, so there can be dialogue. It doesn't all have to happen in the form of a meeting. So I want to put that on the table. I'd be interested in hearing your individual feedback, really to keep the ones that we need, but kind of discontinue that role on other organizations that aren't required by statute. I know that they were established because there was a thought that there was more open and communication with that occurring, but I'll be honest with you, there's some that we've identified that we even do fund that a council member hasn't attended a meeting in the last several years. So I'm not so sure how effective the role is, you know, and we could also look at revamping it versus just eliminating it, but I think there might be better ways to do it, and it wouldn't be at the expense of taxpayer dollars to do that. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts that you kind of want to add here, or, and Jason, I know you've been familiar with this because you have served prior on council.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. The only one that, then I guess is probably an ordinance with P&Z and maybe the park board, but statute I believe requires a council member on the library board and they need it for certification.
Yes, yes.
But other than that, it is, I mean, you're right. I don't know why it was done.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was, there was a payment for it
Oh,
for
yeah.
about 8 years. I know I have for the
Yeah,
last
since
3,
now you know.
4,
Yeah.
but,
And again, that was, not everybody who attends a meeting submits it, so it was used it should have been used appropriately by everybody, but a lot of times it was just discretion. Sometimes people would, other people would definitely, so I just think that it's an expense that we really don't need to consider putting on the taxpayers, and we ourselves should be covering that, so.
well, I think it makes sense we can require audits from anybody that we give money
Absolutely.
to and various other
Absolutely.
things, and it makes sense that they can come in and chat and give us a status on where it's at.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
show where the money's going and stuff.
Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll come up with a proposal that I will share with everyone for that. You share your thoughts in the interim, and then we'll come up with a solution relative to how we're gonna handle that going forward. Okay, so that's the last discussion item. Let's move on into report items. So Carl, I'm gonna start with you. Anything that you'd like to report on tonight?
No, Monday I swung by up on the museum bridge project, kind of checked in with the guys, see what they had going on there, and kind of doing some good progress up there. I can't wait for them to be done, to be able to get across that bridge without acting like the Dukes of Hazzard. So I thank all them for coming in and working on that.
Fixing the holes for the lights, yeah.
Other than that,
Okay,
that's about all that I've been on.
okay. All right, Alderman Oak.
I haven't been out of the house very much lately.
And that's
so
okay, it's understandable. Alderman Gillespie.
I got nothing.
Okay, and Alderman Householder.
You went to last P&Z?
I did go to the last P&Z meeting, so I'll go ahead then and take the floor myself at the last P&Z meeting. There was a lot of discussion relative to the ordinance that went through its second reading tonight, and that predominantly was what took most of the time and action that happened at that P&Z meeting. They also talked a little bit about prioritizing the items that they want to work on in the future. They have a list, and I believe I thought Dale had shared it, but I'll go ahead and share the list. The one thing that I actually really wanted to bring up here and talk to the council about, and I think if everybody's on board, we can take as a recommendation to P&Z, is they had identified it as a priority, but not something that they want to work on right now, and that's relative to food trucks. So I don't know how many of you folks eat out regularly. I personally don't like to cook. It's not that I can't, but I don't. And with what we've got going on, we have very few food options. Very few food options for people in the area. We're looking at transient vendors. Food trucks fits a little bit of a different scenario and actually would provide a service for a gap that we have now. It's not the solution to the issues that we have with our food problem, but it's potentially a way that we could ease some of that. So if the council would be in agreement, I think it would be prudent for us to go back to planning and zoning, and I can carry the message back that, maybe we really should start to look at food trucks as a little bit more of a priority instead of being so far down on the list. It's gonna be work, it'll involve a lot of stuff, and yes, the museum bridge that I was talking about could be an area that you could house those as well. So there's options that we have, but I think we need to make sure that we have ordinances that allow it and that do a service and that add what we need to the community. So I wanted to put that out there. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess I kind of a little bit disagree. I mean, food trucks are not gonna be too popular until springtime again. They're not a wintertime thing. P&Z has spent a lot of time on the commercial code. I hate to see that wasted and forgotten, but let it just go. They identified it as one of the things they wanted to do. And I think we've all talked about the business license and registry.
Yep, so those
That has to be done as soon as possible,
Yep.
so you get the business people notified.
So those are two of the top priorities. The other priority that they put in the mix was potentially turning, Brett, what is that area? Where they wanna make it a park? Major Lake, exactly. So and there was a lot of excitement around what can we do with Major Lake as far as converting it to something else. Well, I'm all for green space, but as a town, we have a lot right now. So is it really the best use of their time to dive into that, or should they be looking at something else like food trucks? So I'll put it out there. I won't require any feedback right now. If you wanna contact me separately, let me know, but that was one of the things. I had almost expected that they put it up in the top 3, and it didn't make the cut, so, I can go ahead and send you what they have, the information, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be on my top 3 either, especially given that we just went through a transient merchant vendor deal, and they qualify as a transient merchant.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around that, and so tents aren't okay, but food vendors taking away stuff from local restaurants are?
Well, and you know, I agree with you, and that's always been an argument, but if you take a look at the situation we have this year, we don't have enough to provide the people that are coming in. So like I said, it's not an overall solution.
We got a new pizza place though.
We did,
pretty
they
good.
have wonderful pasta. They ran out of food, so they went through 3 days worth of food in a day. I think
They had
that's a
a
pretty
busy
good
night, I
problem,
hear.
isn't it? Yeah. But, you know, unfortunately, we lost a couple seasonal restaurants early, and yeah, there's a little bit of pull. So we can have more discussion on that, but that's really what happened is they prioritized their
They could only
things.
run for 12 days.
Yes, they could. They could. So.
Consecutive or no? I don't know. I'll have to look that
Yeah,
up.
we can figure out what it is. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, just a little bit, and then I'll get off and I'll turn it over to Stacia for the finances, is we talked a little bit tonight about that Museum Drive Bridge, and I really do think as a council we need to have a conversation about that and what the future of it is. In understanding that there's potential funds out there that could help us with that, I think just because it's not being used today is not doesn't necessarily mean we couldn't use it if it wasn't in a better condition than it is. And financially, it actually might be cheaper with a grant to fix it than it would be to tear it down. So I think we need to look at that a little bit deeper. But that to me gets back to the history part of it. So I don't know how many of you are aware, and I'm sure you probably all are, but there was a recent sale that happened at the Christie's auction house, and an artifact, Stan the dinosaur, sold for $31.8 million. Stan was on display in Hill City for almost 20 years, from 1996 until it actually was taken down and was set up and needed to be sold as a result of a lawsuit. While I understand that's a personal asset and it's something that belonged to a business, it still was something that was on display that was unique that really didn't receive the recognition that it needed. So as we continue to move forward as a town or community and we start to take a look at these things, and I plan on going to the EDC and I plan on going to the next chamber meeting to talk about this, we need to recognize what makes us individual and unique as a town. And I'll tell you, the second most complete dinosaur ever recovered is something that does make us unique as a town. So instead of focusing on, oh, we need this and we need that building and we need that, maybe there's opportunity for us to take a step back and take a look at what we have and how we can market that and how that can be a very big draw. So I said I wouldn't sit on my soapbox for very long, but I was very saddened to see that we literally had a $31 million asset that some people who sit here and have lived here for how long don't even know we had or existed. So that's where I'm at. That's my piece. I mean, I really feel that we need to embrace history, not erase history, and that's what's going to make Hill City different. So
You would have saved Sue, wouldn't you?
there's nothing I could have done here. I would have laid right down in front of it with the Larsons. I would have. Don't take it. But and things happen, right? Again, this is a private asset, so I'm not saying that you're directing what people do with their assets, but all I'm merely saying is this was on display. I mean, personally, I don't think there's any tourist that should go through this town that doesn't know the story of Sue and that doesn't understand why we are the Hill City Rangers. Hello, we have a trademarked icon that we can utilize, and that's our name, and some of our own residents don't understand that or why. So I'm all about history, so that's what you're going to hear, and you're going to hear that, and that kind of worked into the bridge too. So with that being said, I'll communicate more to the council relative to the heart of Christmas being here in the heart of Hill City. I think it's a great thing for us to focus on, and I think it's going to keep our shoulder season. Maybe it isn't going to be our shoulder season. Maybe it becomes part of our overall season. It'd be nice to be supported by businesses that are open to do that as well. But I think we have a good possibility here. COVID actually drew people to Hill City instead of pushing them away. And I honestly think that you're going to still see that stream of people up through the end of the year. I mean, people are booking weeks at campgrounds still. And I'm looking at turning my furnace on. So I think we need to capitalize on this and move forward and see what we can do. That's what I've got. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Stacia.
In your packet, you have the financials for September. You can look at them. We are down in our revenue for most of our funds balances compared to last year at this time. But if you have any questions regarding those, I will go through them with you.
So one of the things I just want to mention on the heels of what she said is we need to understand that reporting mechanisms and how we receive money is not necessarily indicative of what was actually sold or the business that was done during that time. So to sit here and say, gosh, we're down over what we were before and we've been running ahead seems kind of strange. However, there's variables that affect this, and one of the big ones is if we're looking at the tax revenue that comes in, it's dependent on people paying that. Not everybody pays on a monthly schedule. They pay on bi-monthly. Some pay once a year. So while I understand this is the first time that we're actually seeing a dip in this, I don't know if it's a point that we need to be nervous yet. And that's something that Stacia is astute at, and she understands when she gets those payments in. People could be withholding money at this point because they're just nervous to see how the rest of the year goes. We don't know what that answer is, but as we draw closer to the end of the year, Stacia will be able to give us more of an impression of how we really truly are doing. So thank you for putting this together, Stacia.
And two of the things that are down are to be expected, triple B funds and the bid tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the overall revenue is down, maybe down 1%.
Exactly.
For sales tax collected, but that's $7,000, did I read that right?
Yeah.
So.
We're running pretty good for a,
I'm not jumping yet.
for a,
The bid money, is that collected through what?
The $2 tax on
No,
each
I
one.
mean, what
how?
juncture? I mean, have we gotten all
All
of
year.
August money in yet? Have we got just, what do we got?
Just August money.
So we still have, this just reflects through the end of August. Okay, so-
Mhm.
And all of them have reported? All
Yes.
motels that are participating?
Yeah.
But we've already had some that have closed down in September, so.
But we've already got some that have stayed open longer than September too. So
Yeah.
if you look at Quality Inn, they're still open, and I've personally driven through town at night, and those lots are still pretty full of out-of-state cars. So we may see more of an uptake. We just don't know until it comes in. Okay, no other questions for Stacia. Let's go ahead on over to Brett, who's gonna give us a quick brief report on everything that he's got.
Yeah, so, Major Lake Bridge project, we covered that earlier. Again, it's just to reiterate, it's in the bid letting office of the state. They haven't landed on a date yet to fill into their schedule, but that is going to be happening within the next month. So, the next item is Bull Run subdivision. I actually took a couple of pictures. This is not Bull Run, but this is Matkins Court with the new asphalt that was put on their street. So it looks pretty good. I did drive Bull Run. I'll take a few other pictures up there, but I ran into a couple people who are residents here. They were thanking me very greatly in the city for getting this done and kind of squared back away. So it looks great. The J&J did a great job. Bull Run, like Travis said earlier, the water lines, sewer paving is completed. We're going to be working, and everything's looking great so far. We're going to be doing a walkthrough in the next couple of weeks with their supervisor, project supervisor, and we'll go through bullet point stuff. So it'll be myself and Travis and Danny. If anybody else wants to join us, sure can. Just walking through, make sure we go through the punch list
Yep.
of all the final things that we have questions or concerns on. And then we'll be at a point where you guys need to take action eventually on the acceptance of the water lines, the sewer lines, the roads, everything, and make it official. Obviously, that plat was done and approved and recorded, so that's just one piece of it. The construction piece is another part of it. I don't know if you guys have been up there lately, but they're building like crazy up there. The expectation of this paying off in, 7, 8, 9 years probably will be a lot quicker than that, just because it's filling in very quickly. So it's been very successful, and I just see a lot of grinning faces driving on that nice new asphalt up there. The water reservoir project, Kale has been working on this document, and I'm happy to share this with people. Every year, this document has to be revised with rural water or rural development. And then, so this has been submitted in, Kale submitted it in midweek last week. And then they'll go through it, and then he's also submitted in the modifications to the style of tank to them. So hopefully we'll hear back some information from them. So again, it's on their plate. Question from the previous meeting. There was a question that was brought up during public comment about developers and doing paving like this. And, you know, it's in our code that there needs to be certain things that are done, you know, water infrastructure extended to property lines, sewer infrastructure extended to property lines as development occurs. Those are all within our subdivision regulation. It also talks about the size of the rights of way, paving, sidewalks, those things are all in the subdivision. So as a new subdivision comes on board, you should see these things develop and get paved and improved. I can't speak to what has happened prior to 2008 because I wasn't here, but I know that there were certain rules that were either ignored or were not enforced, and certain roads got paved and certain roads didn't. And so we have what I consider, you know, with Bull Run, we don't do subdivisions all that often, but I can tell you what, I think we did a great job as a city with planning and zoning, with Danny, with the city council, with the developer, with Siteworks, with Public Works, that we've done a really good job of keeping on top of this one. And it's turned into, I think, what's gonna be a really, really fabulous development for the years to come, and a big benefit to the city. So this is our roadmap for future development, and it can only get better from here as far as making sure we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, kind of, so to speak. So, so that's the answer. Roads should be paved if they're brought in through a subdivision. I mean, that developer needs to figure it out, whether it's their own money or through a TIF. So.
And rules will be enforced.
And rules will be enforced.
Okay.
And rules, you know, obviously rules, like tonight with the adoption of the transient merchant thing, the intent is that these rules get better all the time, and they fit our community better all the time. So.
All right. All right, so with no further business, meeting adjourned.